Hey guys, Ryan here. It's 2022, an exciting year for Power Rangers collectors as we are expecting to get a brand new collector-focused Megazord line. Hasbro's Zord Ascension project was announced late at the end of 2021, and by the middle of 2022 we're expecting our first release in the Power Rangers Season 1 Megazord or Dino Megazord, and although at time of filming, although unconfirmed, there's also a product number for Dragonzord. Now, as we know from experience with the Lightning Collection figures, Hasbro can go quite quickly on this once they're up and running, and I imagine they're already hard at work on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th Zap Megazord releases. Obviously, in a very short amount of time, Bandai gave us 7 quite reasonable releases in the Legacy line, and they're all pretty obvious choices again for Hasbro. Based on the information we already have, Hasbro are already 2 out of 7 on Bandai's 7 Legacy releases. Kind of to be expected. We know they've been repeating Bandai's playbook in terms of figures and roleplay, but then equally they have been introducing new stuff we've never had before. There is of course logic in Hasbro repeating so many of Bandai's previous efforts. Bandai were going off 20 and 25 years of experience looking after the brand at that point. They knew what we as fans kept asking for, they knew what was popular, so Bandai definitely had this build-up of brand and fandom knowledge in terms of what they should be releasing. So what I want to do today is throw a hat in the ring for what my top 5 Megazord wish list is for Zord Ascension project. Number 5, the Galaxy Megazord with the Lights of Orion. This one's probably a surprise for some of you, although if you remember I did say in my Lost Galaxy roundup video that I would actually be interested in like a newer version of this. I think the Megazord is interesting and maybe could do with a modern take on it. There are a few things I would really appreciate if they could find a way around, like having the fists come out the feet and then have to be clipped on. If they could like spring out, that would be a great improvement. Same as well for the horns on the Megazord helmet. Hasbro obviously like Lost Galaxy, they seem to be making moves to complete that team in the figures, and it's one that possibly not many people have. I think there'd be a lot of interest from the Super Sentai markets in importing it over, so to me it just seems like a really logical choice. And actually the ultimate reason that makes this appealing for me is that, like the Turbo Megazord, this has no combinations outside of its own Lights of Orion power-up. Obviously we never got the power-up for Power Rangers apart from an out-of-scale, non-separating electronic version. So yeah, this could be a real premiere release for Hasbro in terms of doing something that Bandai never did, and that quite probably has a decent sized built-up audience. In a way, the fact that the Lost Galaxy Megazord doesn't combine with anything else means that you aren't missing out if Hasbro were to not do another Lost Galaxy Megazord, because this is kind of it. The most it can do is have the Lights of Orion power up, and if those were included in the box with the 5 Zords, you've kind of got an all-in-one perfect release there, and actually one that I would buy. Number 4, Super Zeo Megazord. So I've added this one with a bit of reluctance because I don't actually feel the need for any Zeo Zords, and I know that's sort of wishful thinking. It is one of the only seasons that they have completed in the Lightning Collection figures so far, so you have to assume they're looking at it for Zap. Super Zeo Megazord was a nice release by Bandai in the 90s that they mostly nailed. You can check out my review of it where I'm fairly complimentary of it. But that's not to say that there isn't still room for improvement here. In Zord mode I still feel the proportions were slightly off for some of them, especially the blue and green Zords. The dull plastic colour of most of it felt a bit off, and it would be nice to have it realised in a richer colour plastic or paint. And again, like the Galaxy Megazord, it doesn't combine with anything else save for kind of the warrior wheel, which I guess again they could include in the box to create like a well-rounded complete Megazord. And again, if they could somehow find a way for the warrior wheel to clip into the Super Zeo Megazord's hand, that would be a first, because even the deluxe Zords never managed that, despite that being the finisher that was shown time and again on the show. I've obviously cheated a few times on my Instagram, Power Rangergram. I've just kind of photoshopped it on. But yeah, it's always been a shame that those two never went together as naturally, organically as the series led us to believe they could. Anyway, assuming Hasbro were to do a Zap Super Zeo Megazord, assuming they don't make it too wide, it would also actually still be able to fit in the back of Pyramidus's standing warrior Ultrazord mode. In this way, Hasbro would simultaneously be able to hit Zeo while also allowing it to kind of fit in with our previous deluxe versions from Bandai. A very harmonious release, you might say, and if Hasbro's one was impressive enough, it could slowly start to bring the reluctant mongers round to them doing the original Zeo Megazord as well at some point. It would also probably look quite good besides the Zeo Megazord 12-inch, I believe, action figure that they literally just released last year, and it wouldn't annoy the people that bought that either if they went straight to Super Zeo rather than the first Zeo Megazord. Number 3, Astro Delta Megazord. Yep, kind of a cheat in that it's a combination, but one that I think really makes sense, and you'd still technically only get 2.5 Zords out of it. I think for the past 15 years, maybe longer, these have really been two of the hardest Megazords to find, and especially find complete, not broken, and at a decent price. I think the Power Rangers collective are pretty much all in agreement. It would be nice to get an Astro Megazord with a lot more posability than the rather brickish version that we got back in the 90s. We wouldn't necessarily need electronics on this one, so hopefully that can help them in some ways to add a bit more posability in there. Delta Megazord was absolutely horrible at keeping together because of the loose connections. Hasbro have already shown us that they love In Space, that's one of our few complete teams at the moment, and they're still releasing villains from it, so I definitely think Astro Megazord is already a shoe-in, probably being designed up right now as we speak, but I think in terms of adding that extra wow factor, it would be either boxing it together with Delta Megazord or announcing a closely released Delta Megazord, similar to what they seem to be doing for Megazord and Dragonzord as well. Number 2, Ninja Mega Falcon Zord movie version. So I appreciate this probably kind of depends on what the rights issues are at the moment that we, to be fair, haven't actually heard anything official on, but we're kind of inferring based on how the releases are being done. But assuming that Hasbro didn't get the rights to Fox's Power Rangers the movie production when they bought the franchise off Saban Brands, I don't see why they can't now just license it from Disney, same as they do for all their releases for Marvel and Star Wars. This is for me, and please let me know if it is for you as well, a total holy grail item. I would lap this thing up and pre-order it the first minute I'd get chance to. This is something we've never had. It does not exist. The only time I've ever seen something kind of do it justice was that Toy Fair version, which was very impressive but obviously didn't separate. Hasbro have really got an opportunity to impress here. If they can nail it, if they can do a combining movie version of the Ninja Mega Falcon Zord, that would be a Power Rangers first in the terms of the toy line. And I hope I'm not wrong, I think quite a lot of us would want this. I do feel it's out there somewhere in the future, I just don't know when. I believe this would be a really good Megazord, you guys, especially with the cockpit with the Rangers injected in. I think it's actually a very decent design, certainly better than the 2017 movie Megazord, and actually it's just bad animation from 1995 that let the design down, that didn't do it justice. So if Hasbro could kind of interpret that properly and realise it as a toy, yeah, they got me, they'd get me with that. And my number 1 most wanted Megazord for Zap, Shogun Megazord. We were, as some of you may recall, so close to getting this for the Legacy line, so close. They had left clips along the wings of Legacy Falcon Zord, so Bandai clearly knew that this should have been next as well. As a Megazord in Power Rangers history, it has a great story. Remember, the original version for Power Rangers was and still is derided for changing the white Zord to pink. I remember in 2016, 2017, like the drum roll really starting to gather momentum for this, but then just the Legacy Zords just petered out after the movie box releases. It was weird because it really seemed like Bandai had found their feet with the Legacy releases. Ninja Megazord and actually Ninja Mega Falcon Zord combined would have been cheaper than the Legacy Thunder Megazord release. That seemed reasonable at the time. There was still a decent amount of feature highlight diecast on there. The Zords, they'd added some posability. They'd made the stature of the combined Megazord more slender in the modern way that Bandai made Megazords. It all looked good for Shogun Megazord. And if you recall a Bandai interview at the time, was extremely non-committal by saying that there was an idea for one was on a piece of paper somewhere. Even then I think we were like, what? a piece of paper. It's 2017, not 1995. I get they were probably kind of talking in metaphor and sort of riddles here. They were explaining it was just an idea that someone had rather than something they were actively pursuing as a direction for the toy line. That was definitely a shame and a gradual dawning realization of disappointment as we realized it was never coming, especially because of those stupid clips on the Falconzord that implied that it was. However, by that point we were definitely used to Bandai kind of teasing things and then just not really completing it. So yeah, Shogun Megazord is a logical choice, I believe, for Zap. It's one that Bandai never got round to, so there's a lot of built up appetite there, the kind of unresolved feelings of collectors missing out, especially if you only ever had the Power Ranger version with the pink arm. I think if done right, it would truly be like a cornerstone of the Zap line. It just, as we say, needs to be done right. What do you guys think? Would a Shogun Megazord make you want to buy a TV version Ninja Mega Falconzord as well? Or perhaps if they did make a movie version Ninja Mega Falconzord, maybe that Falconzord could also be compatible with TV version Shogun Megazord, possibly. Kind of getting ahead of myself there. Let me know in the comments, you guys, what is your top 5 Zap Megazord wishlist? As you can probably tell, I've really stuck to the original Saban era with this one. I just think in terms of sales, that is still probably the best chance that the line has. I did consider the Disney seasons and I did consider the kind of Neo Saban seasons. I very nearly gave as an honourable mention to Samurai Megazord because it would have been a chance for them to do symbol mode finally, but I just don't know if the time is right yet for that one. So for where we are right now, I think these 5 make the most sense to me, and although I'm sure we're probably just going to get new versions of the legacy ones, this is really where I'd like to see the line go. So yeah, do check out my next video, which is actually going to be 5 releases that I want Zap to avoid, and yeah, and I hope you'll join the channel as a subscriber if you're not already, and yeah, until next time, see you later.